Sandy! Teddy? What are you doing here?
Grease 1978 is not only a film, but a cultural storm that swept across the world. With leather jackets, shiny hairstyles, and vibrant rock and roll tunes, the movie carved its name into history as one of the most timeless teen classics ever created. However, behind that dazzling glory lie countless unexpected truths, from the secret surrounding the iconic tight black leather pants to the sudden kiss on a co-star's neck, or the fact that the cast was not as teen as they appeared on screen. Not stopping there, the movie also carried a strange connection to Elvis Presley, the king of rock, along with a tragic misfortune tied to the death of a supporting actor. And here are 20 bizarre facts about Grease that you probably have never heard of. 1. The secret behind the legendary tight leather pants and the shocking auction price. The black leather outfit that Olivia Newton-John wore in Grease may look simple, but hidden behind it is a story no one expected. The moment Sandy stepped out with a completely transformed image, tight leather pants, an off-shoulder top, and danced passionately with Danny at the school carnival became one of the most iconic scenes in cinema. Yet very few people know that the outfit almost never made it to the screen. In her memoir, Don't Stop Believin', 2019, Olivia revealed the black pants were actually a vintage sharkskin pair from the 1950s, discovered by costume designer Albert Wolski to ensure maximum authenticity. The problem was the piece was too old and there was only one. When Olivia tried it on, the back zipper immediately broke. Wolski decided not to replace it in order to preserve the original structure, forcing the crew to sew the pants tightly onto Olivia's body every morning before filming. This put the actress under extreme pressure. She could not eat or drink, could barely breathe, and nearly fainted several times during shooting. Still, she managed to deliver a flawless performance, turning that scene into history. Decades later, Olivia brought the outfit to auction at Julian's Idols and Icons event in 2019, with all proceeds donated to the Olivia Newton-John Cancer Research Institute. The result exceeded all expectations. The legendary outfit fetched $405,700 USD, double the original estimate. Among that, the tight pants were purchased by Spanx founder Sarah Blakely for $162,000 USD. The leather jacket, after being won by an anonymous bidder, was returned to Olivia as a respectful gift. But the story of Grease does not end there, because a rock and roll legend once nearly appeared in the movie. Can you guess who that was? 2. Age. Olivia Newton-John's biggest obstacle in accepting the role of Sandy. What may leave many people astonished: Olivia Newton-John almost lost the role of Sandy in Grease, although the movie later became a golden turning point in her career. At first, it was Olivia herself who declined the offer. When invited to portray a high school girl, Olivia was already approaching 30. She doubted her ability to convince the audience in the image of a teenager, to the point that she only agreed on the condition of having a screen test to prove herself. Not only that, at that time, Olivia's music career was thriving. She feared that taking part in a film project could ruin everything she had built. In an interview published in Marie Claire and Vanity Fair, Olivia admitted, "I was very worried about doing another movie because my music career was doing well. I didn't want to spoil it with a bad film, but John Travolta would never settle for anyone else. He firmly declared that only Olivia could bring the perfect version of Sandy. There is only one person on this planet who can be Sandy, Travolta insisted, and I was determined to have her in the film. It was his persistence together with the convincing results of the screen test that finally made Olivia change her mind, creating an immortal legend." Yet Olivia was not the only one whose real age puzzled the audience, because the truth about several other cast members would shock viewers even more. 3. Elvis Presley, the legend who almost stepped into the world of Grease. Few people know that at first the producers had targeted Elvis Presley for the role of Teen Angel, the character who performs the song Beauty School Dropout. However, that invitation was declined. At the final stage of his career, Elvis's health was already deteriorating, and taking on a small role that was not central on screen no longer seemed appealing to him. In addition, his manager, Colonel Parker, also wanted to protect the image of the king of rock and roll, not allowing it to be tied to a project he considered minor. In the end, the role of Teen Angel was given to Frankie Avalon, the famous singer and actor of the 1950s. Frankie himself later admitted that he was somewhat worried since the character's look, from the silver high-rise hairstyle to the 1950s-style pants, could too easily remind the audience of Elvis. Even though Elvis did not directly appear, his presence was still felt in one of the film's most unforgettable moments. In the slumber party scene, Rizzo, played by Stockard Channing, playfully shook her hips in front of a photo of Elvis and sang the mocking line, "Elvis, Elvis, let me be." Keep that pelvis far from me. What made it eerie was the strange coincidence Elvis Presley passed away on August 16, 1977, the very same day this scene was filmed. And that was only the beginning, because behind the bright lights of Grease there were still surprising stories surrounding the leading lady, Olivia Newton-John. 4. The real ages of the Grease cast, a shock behind the high school uniforms. A fact that made many viewers laugh: almost the entire cast of Grease was much older than the high school characters they portrayed on screen. John Travolta was only 23 when playing Danny Zuko, but Michael Tucci had already turned 30. This age gap once drew a fair amount of mockery toward the film. In response to the criticism, casting director Joel Thurm defended his decision. He emphasized that Grease was not a realistic documentary, but rather a fairy tale meant for entertainment, unconstrained by strict rules. According to Thurm, what mattered was not the actors' real ages, but that they looked of the same generation on screen. That consistency was what counted. He also stressed that the success of Grease did not depend on the cast's ages, but on its ability to bring enjoyment to audiences. The critics at that time forgot one thing. Audiences went to the theatre to have fun, Thurm said. It was the perfect moment with the 1950s revival sparked by Happy Days. The flawless combination of music style and setting was the real key to the film's unexpected triumph. But age was only the surface, because behind the scenes of the movie lay a surprising romance that, once revealed, is almost impossible to believe. 5. Jeff Conaway's unspoken love for Olivia Newton-John and the unexpected twist. Few people know that Jeff Conaway, the actor who played Kenickie, once secretly fell in love with Olivia Newton-John. According to Morning Call, Jeff admired her silently but never had the courage to confess. And then, fate suddenly turned in another direction. At a cast party, Jeff encountered Rona Newton-John, Olivia's sister. He recalled, "I looked across the room and saw a stunning woman talking with Olivia. I immediately decided to step in to take control before a pack of wolves rushed in." With his charm and confidence, Jeff quickly won Rona's heart. After only a few dates, he proposed, and the two got married. However, the marriage lasted only 5 years. Even so, Jeff remained close to the Newton-John family. When he passed away in 2011, Olivia expressed her sorrow. Jeff had a kind heart and was very talented. He was a big part of our family for many years, and he will always be remembered. But that was not the only intriguing detail, because a seemingly small element in the film concealed a behind-the-scenes truth that is hard to believe. 6. Rizzo's love bite, not the work of makeup. In Grease, the moment when Rizzo Stockard Channing stood before the mirror, proudly admiring the love bites on her neck, became unforgettable to viewers. What the audience did not know, those red marks were not created by makeup artists. To preserve the authenticity of the legendary line, "A hickey from Kenickie is like a Hallmark card." Jeff Conaway, who played Kenickie, actually left the marks himself on his co-star's skin. In a later interview, Stockard Channing revealed that the scene was haunting not only because of her character's rebellious nature, but also because Jeff had left real signs on her body. A small detail, yet one that made the moment both authentic and slightly unsettling. And even more surprising, the most iconic car of Grease was originally never meant for the main character, as everyone believed. 7. Greased Lightning, the car that once belonged to Kenickie before becoming Danny's icon. Few realise that the legendary Greased Lightning did not originally belong to Danny Zuko. At first, it was owned by Kenickie, a 1948 Ford Deluxe convertible so run down it was nearly worthless. The windshield was cracked, headlights broken, tyres mismatched and wheel covers missing. Kenickie poured his heart into reviving that heap of scrap, turning it into a true street racer. He repaired every flaw, replaced the windshield and lights, and repainted the body in bright white with silver lightning bolts outlined in red. This was the very car mentioned in the classic song where the T-Birds imagined it as their dream machine. When it entered the Thunder Road race, Greased Lightning became the centerpiece. But rival Leo used wheels with blades that tore one side of the car badly. Even so, the vehicle proved surprisingly resilient, lasting far longer than when Kenickie first bought it. Although the damage was not highlighted in the film, the car was quickly repaired afterward. Later, a fantasy version of Greased Lightning was created, a 1948 Ford Deluxe with candy, apple red paint, white lightning streaks, and a transparent plexiglass roof. This was the version Danny eventually won in a graduation carnival raffle, and it became the car that carried him and Sandy away in the final scene. But the intrigue was not only about the car. Even the settings where those iconic songs were performed held secrets that hardly anyone could imagine. 8. Summer Nights. The scene was not filmed on a set, but at a real high school. What surprises many is that the Summer Nights sequence was not filmed on a studio set, but at Venice High School in California during the summer of 1977. The crew even recruited the school's own students to appear as extras. To transform Venice into Rydell High, the filmmakers enlisted Grant Francis, a teacher and also a former student of the school. He and his pupils installed a Rydell High School sign to cover the school's real name. In the opening moment, when crowds of students rushed off the buses and ran across the lawn, every reaction was completely genuine. Skaters carrying their boards, musicians holding instruments and cheerleaders in short skirts all helped create the perfect atmosphere of an authentic American high school. Francis also revealed an interesting detail to prevent rival school students from vandalizing the statue of actress Myrna in the courtyard with paint roses were planted around it. Later, the statue was recast in bronze, becoming a lasting symbol. Just as Grease itself became a permanent part of cultural memory for generations. Yet behind the scenes, not everything was smooth. A shocking accident nearly brought the entire production to a halt. 9. The unusual accident of the director at Thunder Road. On screen, the Thunder Road race looked fiery and dramatic. But behind the set was an accident that nearly turned disastrous for director Randall Kleiser himself. Because the concrete surface was unbearably hot, Kleiser removed his shoes and went barefoot to move more easily between camera setups. That decision led to an unexpected mishap. He stepped on a sharp object in the polluted bed of the Los Angeles River. Only one night later, infection set in. His foot swelled badly. A fever spiked to nearly 38.9 degrees, 101 degrees it, and Kleiser described himself as shocked and completely exhausted. The production was forced to pause several scenes so he could recover. What seemed like a minor misstep almost derailed the shooting schedule. Yet the real twist came from a casting turnaround that changed the entire film. 10. John Travolta, from supporting role to dream lead. It is hard for audiences today to believe that John Travolta was not the first choice for Danny Zuko. In fact, In the stage version, he was only given the supporting role of Doody, something Travolta resented because from the moment he read the script, he already had his eyes on Danny. In a 2019 interview, Travolta admitted, "I thought one day when they make the movie, maybe I'll get to play Danny." In 1976, when the film went into production, the role of Danny was given to Henry Winkler, then famous for his greaser Fonzie character in Happy Days. However, Winkler turned it down, and that opened the perfect opportunity for Travolta. When he heard the news, Travolta was ready. He already had a 3-picture contract with producer Robert Stigwood, who had also chosen him for Saturday Night Fever. With more than a year of preparation, Travolta seized his dream role and officially became Danny Zuko. The contrast was summed up humorously by Henry Winkler in Newsweek 2021. "I went home and had a glass of orange juice. John Travolta said yes to the role, and he went home and bought a plane." For Travolta, who had long waited for the chance, winning Danny was nothing less than a dream come true. And what surprised many even more was Winkler's later attitude, which he candidly revealed in an interview. 11. Henry Winkler, the greatest regret of his career. Few people know that Henry Winkler, once chosen for the role of Danny Zuko, turned down the golden opportunity of his life. The reason was simple: he feared being typecast as a greaser, too similar to Fonzie in Happy Days. But years later, in a 2020 interview, Winkler admitted bluntly, "I was really stupid." That decision sent Winkler's career into decline. For nearly a decade, Hollywood almost abandoned him. With no leading roles and no spotlight, Winkler had to find another path. Instead of giving up, he stepped behind the camera, producing and directing, helping create the success of series such as MacGyver. It was during those difficult years that Winkler learned a priceless lesson. You not only need perseverance and gratitude, but you also have to be ready to take a leap of faith. He once told himself, "Come on, shut up and just try." And that resolve became the compass for the rest of his life. In his commencement speech at Georgetown University in 2025, Winkler delivered a message: be resilient, create with finesse, and dare to carve out your own path. With a remarkable transformation, he succeeded as an author-writer and producer, proving that failure is sometimes only the beginning of a new journey. But Grease left behind more than regrets about casting. Even the coolest gang at Rydell High once nearly carried a name so strange it is hard to believe. 12. T-Birds, the name that almost became a disaster. Before becoming a cultural icon as the T-Birds, Danny Zuko's gang was nearly saddled with a far less impressive name, the Burger Palace Boys. The reason was simply because they often hung out at a diner called Burger Palace. When the story was adapted for the big screen, the filmmakers realized quickly that for this group to win the audience's hearts, they needed a name sharper, tougher, and more streetwise. Thus T-Birds was born, forever tied to Danny Kinnicky, Doody, Sonny and Putsy. By Grease 2, a new generation of T-Birds appeared. Johnny Nogarelli, Louis DeMucci, Goose, Mackenzie, Davy Jaworski, and later Michael Carrington, the British bookworm who gradually found his courage. This change showed that the T-Bird's spirit would never fade, but instead continue across generations. But not everyone managed to hold on to the spotlight forever, because one supporting actor ended his life in a silent tragedy that shocked Hollywood. 13. The death of Jeff Conaway, a tragedy rooted in Grease. In 2011, the passing of Jeff Conaway, the actor who played Kinnicky in Grease, left a haunting shadow over Hollywood. The most painful question: did his tragedy truly begin with the very film that made him famous? In one of the film's most memorable sequences, Jeff danced wildly on top of a car during the T-Birds' performance of Greased Lightning. Yet that radiant moment turned into fate's cruel twist. He fell from the car and suffered a severe back injury. That injury did not end with the shoot. To cope with the chronic pain, Jeff was prescribed opioid painkillers. From there, he gradually slipped into dependency, then into the abuse of multiple substances. When Jeff died, doctors concluded that his death was related to drug use. But the deeper tragedy was this addiction had dulled his physical awareness to the point that he did not realize he was suffering from pneumonia, the illness that ultimately claimed his life. Although medical records were clear, CNN reported it only under the vague description of an accident. Jeff Conaway's death cast a dark shadow over Greece, a reminder that behind the glittering lights lay wounds and hidden struggles never fully revealed. 14. Thunder Road, a famous backdrop but filthy and toxic. The Thunder Road race remains one of the most unforgettable parts of Greece Kaniki, preparing to face off against Leo in a high-stakes battle. But fate intervened. Putzi caused an accident, Kaniki was knocked out before the race, and Danny Zuko stepped in, securing a decisive victory. Behind the camera director, Randall Kleiser had chosen the real Los Angeles River as the location, between the 1st and 4th Street bridges downtown. The barren, gritty landscape provided authenticity, but reality was far from glamorous. The site was filthy trash, stagnant water, and toxic pollution filled the air. On screen, viewers saw thrilling drifts and speed. In reality, many crew members grew ill from working long hours in such a contaminated environment. And that was still not the ultimate sacrifice. For one actor, the price of authenticity meant giving up something deeply personal, just to look convincing under the spotlight. 15. Lorenzo Lamas, the forced blonde hair and an unexpected turning point. Among the things Lorenzo Lamas had to sacrifice to appear in Grease the very first was his own hair. And it was a condition he never expected. Lorenzo recalled, "They told me I had to dye my hair lighter. The request came because his natural appearance, 6'2", tall, muscular, looked too fitting for a tough, rebellious T-Bird. To prevent him from overshadowing the main characters, the crew decided to send him to Rodeo Drive. I walked into the salon, sat down, and they started turning my hair," blonde Lorenzo said, still amused by the memory. What no one expected was that this simple change would define his image. After Grease, blonde hair became a trademark of Lama, following him through many later roles. The day his natural hair was sacrificed was the day a new chapter in his career began. But if you think the final Carnival scene was just a light-hearted shoot, the truth is harsher. It became a set where the cast literally ended up with headaches. 16. The final Carnival scene, from fun to nightmare. During breaks on the Carnival set, some cast members decided to try the notorious octopus ride, a spinning challenge. Ward, Barry Pearl and Michael climbed on excitedly. Within moments, Michael grew dizzy, shouting for it to stop as nausea overwhelmed him. Ward, thinking his friend was joking, held him down and kept going. Michael struggled in real discomfort, while Barry Pearl also lost patience with the endless spinning and began yelling for the ride to end. What seemed like harmless fun quickly turned into a battle right on set. But that was not the biggest problem, because the very last shots of Grease carried a massive challenge that forced the crew into a struggle of their own. 17. The pink clouds. Real cotton, not special effects. If you thought the dazzling pink clouds in the final scene of Grease were just a camera trick, the truth is far more fascinating. They were not special effects at all, but real cotton dyed pink and suspended above the set by the crew. On screen, those clouds created a magical, colourful backdrop perfectly matching Danny and Sandy's final dance. This simple handmade touch gave the film an unforgettable ending, like stepping into a cinematic fairy tale. It was one of the reasons Grease became a timeless icon, not only at its release, but for decades after. Yet the biggest shock was not in the pink clouds, but in Sandy's dramatic transformation during the final moments. 18. Bad Sandy, Olivia Newton-John's surprise. For Olivia, Newton-John playing good Sandy, the sweet and innocent girl, was natural. But stepping into Bad Sandy, the rebellious version, left her more bewildered than expected. In an interview with Fox News, Olivia recalled the contrasting experience I was used to Sandy being sweet in her poodle skirt. So when I tried the bad girl look, I really didn't know what to expect. The moment she walked onto set in her tight leather outfit, voluminous hair, and bold makeup, she stunned the entire cast. No one recognized me, she remembered. And suddenly, I was getting all this attention from the boys. At that moment, I thought, oh my God, is this really what it takes? It was both a humorous and eye-opening moment, allowing Olivia to feel the power of Bad Sandy. Beyond the fun, that transformation revealed a new side of her character that completely captivated the audience. But the surprises in Grease went beyond costumes or looks, because some of its most famous lines were never even in the script. 19. Sid Caesar and the improvised lines of Coach Calhoun. Sid Caesar, the master of improvisation in comedy, left his unique mark in Grease, though few viewers ever realized it. Before joining the film, Sid had already made his name in the 1950s through live television shows, where he constantly broke conventions, freely changing lines even while performing live. For him, a script was only a frame. The real charm came from jokes created on the spot. As Coach Calhoun in Grease, although no official record confirms it, most critics believe that many of the character's witty lines were improvised by Sid himself. Based on his legendary style, the idea that he created spontaneous humor right on set is more than plausible. But the surprises were not only in the dialogue. Even the most iconic song tied to Grease nearly failed to make it into the film. 20. You're the One That I Want, the hit that almost got cut. Few people know that the song You're the One That I Want was not part of the original Grease stage musical. It was written by John Farrar specifically for the film, like a miracle designed to ignite the explosive finale between John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John. Farrar completed it in just a few days, and perhaps even he never imagined that it would become a global phenomenon, more than 4 million copies sold in the US and UK alone, and over 15 million worldwide. But the road to the film was not smooth. Director Randall Kleiser initially opposed it, strongly arguing that the song was too modern, not matching the retro spirit of Warren Casey and Jim Jacobs' original 1950s-inspired score. He worried it would break the musical flow of the film. Fortunately, the final decision was not his to make. Despite the doubts, Record World hailed it as an explosive duet between two stars. And indeed, the moment the line, "You better shape up," rang out, the world knew they were witnessing an immortal moment of both cinema and music. So among all these behind-the-scenes secrets, which detail surprised you the most? Leave a comment below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more fascinating discoveries to come.